Can you smell what the Gundy is cooking? Or better yet, name that movie. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You can find me on Twitter at AllDayOState. I also have a Facebook, which is O State All Day, which is kind of why I wanted to roll into this episode here. The name O State All Day is supposed to be reflective of covering O State literally all day. But, I mean, it could be some symbolic of also meaning I would love to talk about O State literally all day. And you know, I think the growth of the channel has been, I would say, primarily because of, probably the passion, but, you know, I don't know, just the layers that I try to dig through. Now, I'm not a massive breaking news guy. That's not me. Do I have, you know, some things that I run across via information? Yes, I do. Sometimes it would be nice to be able to disclose certain things, but it is what it is. No can do. Not a big deal. Just like I very, very, very much respect, Gundy's philosophy on once he gets true freshmen on campus, not necessarily having them talk to the media because they just need, they sometimes need a little bit more training, I guess you could say, and make sure that the representation is exactly what you want it to be. And I get that. So again, the groundbreaking news stuff, that's not traditionally going to be my cup of taters. But what is my cup of taters is knowing enough to be able to be beneficial to the university. Does that always mean I'm going to be partial to a particular coach? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it's about the brand growing. It's about the brand getting bigger. So if we can continue to do these blasts from the past, like when we had Bobby Reed on the show, Tatum Bell, Corey Hilliard, we've got Rashawn Woods and Marquis Fontaine coming up amongst others. It's to, kind of add that layer of connection because we don't get that layer of connection from Gundy, right? His media sessions are binary basic, right? They're just, it's primarily a softball session, which is fine. Baseball reference, a little bit of soft toss, it does the body good. But every now and again, somebody's got to ask legitimate questions and not be called an ass because they asked a legitimate question. Sometimes people have to ask questions and not constantly be told, we're not going to talk about that. I don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. This degree of separation from the fans as opposed to, I guess you could say, media, it's not beneficial. You can back a coach, sure. But backing a coach, when a coach has backed himself into a corner, when it doesn't necessarily make sense, I mean, what does that do? If this whole game is about credibility, I mean, how does that work? Because, Robert Allen, for example, he's a legend in the game, one of my idols, hands down, 100%. And he has legendary access that none of us or all of us could dream of having. But because of that access, I understand that he's got to kind of, I don't know, try to be a little bit more guarded because he can never lose that access. And nobody can blame him. But when he comes out and says everybody just needs to focus on the rumors not being true, and then all of the air quotes rumors end up being true, how does that help the fan base? How does that help the university? And I feel like that's where we come into play. Are we always gonna, bring lollipops and rainbows to the studio? No, probably not. Are we going to induce into your veins as much orange Kool-Aid as physically possible? Absolutely. But shouldn't it be based in reality? I feel like that's a nonsensical thing. It is what it is. I understand that, again, this show may not be everyone's cup of taters. I get that. But we have fought for years and years and years and years and years to have, some a different layer of coverage other than the local legacy media, because unfortunately we have to sift through hours of more nonsensical coverage because you gotta diagnose hours of OU to get a little bit of Oklahoma State news. So we're on a mission here, and the mission's going well. But I don't want anybody to be misconstrued with the fact that the idea here is to never be quote unquote slanderous or defamatory, which is again why I'm not in the business of doing a bunch of breaking news. I'm in the business of covering Oklahoma State University for the betterment of Oklahoma State University, because Gundy has risen us to a level where we should expect some trophies. We should have already expected some more trophies. Right now, we're not necessarily even asking for that. We're just asking for some clarity. Speaking of clarity, if you're looking for clarity on betting and things of that nature and how to kind of get started in the game or how to enhance your game, we're partially brought to you today by betonline.net. It is your number one source for sports betting, info, news, stats, and analysis. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. So as we continue to dive a little bit deeper into this whole conundrum, I don't side typically on the softness generation. I guess, hold on, let me explain. What I mean is, I do believe that being a hard A, tough nose, old school coach is very, very massively beneficial in today's age of football and life in general. Right? I think kids in general, and I tell this to my son all the time, they are softer, right? I mean, and it's not like a demeaning or topping crap. Let's just face it. We were outside playing basically 24/7 until the street lights came on, type of thing, right? So climbing trees and playing backyard football and all this stuff, it's what we did for hours all day, every day, because it was part of the entertainment. Even if you're just running, playing hide and sneak around the neighborhood, it was something, is what you did. So naturally, we are going to be more predispositioned to, be a little bit more, aggressive, but a little bit more willing to take things head on, a little bit more old school mentality. I love it. I think it's vital for the game. Right. I think the quarterbacks being surrounded by proverbial pillow cushions at times is not necessarily great for the development of the game. I agree with the targeting, but I think that sometimes it should be viewed as whether this is being in the middle of a football type of play, because there are a lot of times that the offensive player, unbeknownst to him, puts himself in a more precarious situation which then puts the DB at a disadvantage. It does happen. So I think that there's part of targeting that should be looked at a little bit deeper. But, the game isn't the same way it is. Just like if you want to have the argument about why Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. And I think the argument has to be made that the physicality in the game back then was a lot more legitimate, right? The concept of throwing bows down low was realistic back then. You knew, right, that there was a plan against MJ to send him to his tailbone every time he came in the lane, right? This is something that's been discussed. And some of that is obviously applicable in football as well. So the softer generation is a real thing. The old school, tough nose, hard mouth, we're going to bring our lunch pail again, go to work, go to war mentality, to me, is massively important. We're hanging on still to some of the tough nose aspects of the game because it is a physical, violent game. Crazy things do happen. By and large, not necessarily, but injuries are a 100% certainty when you're playing sports for this long. It is what it is. So when people say that, there's stuff flying around about Casey Dunn being abusive, those are words that others are using. I understand maybe by, the definition of being demeaning and belittling and things of that nature can be, it is classified as verbal abuse. Like, I get that. But I think that words sometimes need to be taken in context. And when people are saying that Casey Dunn's abusive, I don't necessarily agree with that. I understand the definition, again, of like verbally abusive type things, but some old school stuff is a good thing. Sometimes you do need to toughen players up, but that's not the conversation here. A little toughening up, again, that's going to happen in football. It should happen in football because, as a kid, you don't want to get up every morning and go work out and go lift and go watch film. You don't want to do all that stuff. So the accountability that football teaches you, it can be very helpful for your life moving forward. Right? It can teach you things like accountability and how to be a leader and how to work through differences and how to work together and form a cohesive unit, which I think is applicable yet again in the workplace. And that's what this has turned into. This is a business now, right? So in a business atmosphere, you got to be able to produce tough love 100%, but also you have to be understanding of where you sit with a player. Right? Not every single player can be coached the same. This has been talked ad nauseum by coaches, right? Not every kid's the same. You can have the same set of standards. You can have the same set of rules, but sometimes you got to break things down differently for different people. And that's part of coaching, is knowing how to get the best out of individual athletes. Not just Rob Glass. We know Rob Glass is going to get the most physically out of dudes. We get that. And we're paying Mike Gundy a big boy Power 5 chunk of change to oversee this CEO thing. If he's going to be a CEO, he should just be a CEO, right? He hires defense coordinators and he lets them do their thing. He hires offense coordinators, and that's not always exactly the case. And just like all year, I kept telling people, this isn't all undone. It's not all undone. It's not all undone. A good portion of this is on Gundy. Until I heard with 100% certainty that this stuff is in fact happening. But again, to me, it's not about giving somebody too much of a hard time about the injury thing. To me, the problem is there's a disconnect, right? Everyone's making a big deal about the verbally abusive side of things. I understand that needs to be something that's talked about. But again, the softness of the generation is also a real thing. But we're talking about like issues not being listened to. That to me, I don't understand how this is getting so lost in the shuffle. The concern to me is how we have the head dude, the legend himself, right? And he deserves to be called so because he is, Mike Gundy, the guy who's running the program, to I don't be oblivious to this stuff. It probably doesn't make sense. It probably doesn't make sense that he's oblivious. It probably it doesn't make sense that the people that we rely on for quote unquote inside information purposely are deceiving. Why would you want to be purposely deceived? To protect what? If things need to happen so we can progress the university, then that's just what it is. Hiding from it, pretending it doesn't happen, that's not beneficial. It just, some things need to change and they need to be addressed and they need to be fixed. If you want to be so bold as to keep every single coach on staff, that's a mistake. But if you were to do so, that's fine. But come out and explain how this can be corrected, even if it's not to us fans that are too unintelligent to understand what's happening. Even if you don't want to tell the fans, that's fine. You got to tell the kids. And again, to pretend that these things aren't happening, I think is just, it's ridiculous. To pretend that putting out this type of information is beneficial in the long run without being certain, to me, is preposterous. If everything is predicated upon trying to build credibility and not necessarily being here, check this out type of here's a news flash, how does it line up? Just, I don't know. It is what it is. Not a big deal, because guess what? I'm here all day, every day. I'm not a quote unquote Twitter fan that just flexes my typing muscles every now and again. I'm here to just give you the coverage, right? The good, the bad, the indifferent, the ugly. It is what it is. Accountability has to go all the way around. Just like pumping the right amount of orange Kool-Aid has to go all the way around. Just like pumping the information out about Oklahoma State, it has to happen. These are things that are a must for Oklahoma State to continue to grow, to take that next step, to go to that next level. Should we have already done that? Yes. Should we have already capitalized on some of the seasons that we've had, some of the sustained success we've had with Gundy? Yes, we should have. But it is what it is. That's okay. If we are willing to work on that, taking that next level, right? We just want to see improvement. It does not benefit anybody to pretend things are not happening. You don't want, you don't want things that are untrue rolling around. That's bad for the university. Again, whether it be good or bad, it just, if it's a fact, Jack, then it is what it is. And since we're talking about facts and jacks and all that fun jazz, I do have to bring up, legitimately, you guys already know, one of my favorite sponsors ever of all time, ain't going to change anytime soon, is Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't really want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through all the holidays, and I know that the goal is to eat a little bit healthier coming into the new year for a lot of people. And if you're like that, well, here's a way to eat healthier. Bada boom, bada bing, bada bang. We got you covered with Built Bar. It's a healthy, actually tasty, seriously delicious treat that is good for you. Be part of the New Year's resolution, right? What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right. I said it, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievably awesome flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. And if you're not sure how Built Bar does it, well, these bars, again, taste like candy while maintaining the amazing part of the protein side of things. And only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a box of 4 cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, well, you can run in and grab a 13-bar box and hit the flavors, brownie, batter, churro, and you can thank me later. So again, do your part. Go to BuiltBar.com right now and get yourself hooked up with the promo code LOCKEDON15 to get yourself 15% off of Built Bar. Again, go to Built Bar right now to get yourself squared away on the only protein bar that legitimately tastes like a candy bar. This is an interesting time. And, you know, again, I think there's a lot of potential good news around the corner. We need to focus on the fact that this seems to be stemming primarily from one area. Yet again, defense, I think if they had to start spring football tomorrow, they could, and they would, and they'd be fine with it. Offense is a different story. We have a lot of questions. Okay, cool. That's fine. We just need answers. We just need some direction. And again, if you don't want to, talk to the fans, that's fine. Talk to the players. The players need to know what direction we're going. Who's going to be calling the plays? Who's going to be here? Who's not going to be here? What kind of system are we going to run? Are we going to change anything? What is going to be the featuring idea? What players need to work on certain things? Where they did good, where they did bad, where they need development, where we need to work on things. If we're hiring people, if we're firing people, if we're bringing big names in, it's just, the hiding in darkness, it can't happen anymore. Nor do I think people should hide on the Twitter side of things. But the beauty of this is we'll be here every day, at least 6 days a week. Because, again, we're just here to get Oklahoma State University to a level that is everybody's dream. We all want Oklahoma State to be spread across the universe, far and wide, because we're good enough. We've earned it. We deserve it. A large part thanks to Gundy. So all Gundy's simply got to do is correct some things, to adjust some things, to get some people to understand here's a deficiency, here's what we need to fix. Once again, I'll say it, if we're not going to fire anybody, okay, at least explain what the roles are going to be and how it's going to be any different. Chad Weiberg and Dr. Casey Schrum will do phenomenal things for this university. But they cannot be too afraid to make sure that our head man is still growing. Grow the brand. And just see what more success we can have. Because again, we've got our fingertips on the mountaintops, time and time again. We've just yet to get over the daggone thing. Why is it so insane to ask again for just accountability? The head man needs to be held accountable. He needs to hold Casey Dunn accountable. He needs to make sure this Cowboy culture gets reshifted in the right direction. It is what it is. And why pretend that things aren't happening? Right? Some things do need to be kept in-house. Fact. Some things are easy to be kept in-house whenever you're doing things to improve. But when it gets stale and people have problems, and then problems come from one area and nobody feels like they're being listened to in that area, that becomes something that you can no longer ignore. And that's the most frustrating part, is we're getting ignored. Engagement and involvement equal dollar bills. Heck, guys, we just got to a point that we can sell out Boone Pickens Stadium on a game basis. It doesn't matter who plays. We finally are selling up for anybody, whether it be Arkansas Pine Bluff or a Texas. It's a new age. And instead of being willing to go backwards, instead of being willing to pretend things aren't happening, it is fair that the dollars that are spent are being at least managed properly. I don't understand why there's a big to-do about the, being mean type thing. Sometimes being a little bit more mean than society is okay with is beneficial, and it's necessary, and it's a good thing. So I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I love the old school coaching mentality. I think that the softness of the generation is a real thing. And I think that some of the aggressive coaching can break through some areas for these guys. But that's not the issue here. The issue is there's a problem and we're refusing to fix it. That's the issue. Nothing more, nothing less. Even if the abusive thing is an issue, the players that are being quote unquote abused, it's not like that. They just want to be talked to. They want to know what's going on. They want to know they have value. They want to know that there are possibilities for improvement. They want to know that they're protecting their investment, and their investment is themselves. They've made an investment in Oklahoma State University. They're just simply wanting to make sure that their investment is secure, and that's what they're not getting. They can handle being made fun of, per se. They can handle some tough love as long as it's not crazy and over the top, which nobody said it is. Nobody has said this is a, lock your kid in the closet with a treadmill type situation. That's nobody's saying that. And you want to talk about a mountain out of a molehill? That's not the issue. These kids are not being valued. They're not being treated properly. And it's easy to fix. It's easily fixable. And instead of being like, okay, yes, again, sorry about this season. It didn't go right. Here's what went well. Here's what didn't go well. Here's what we're going to change. Here's the new coaches we might be bringing in. Here's the coaches we're going to keep. Here's what we need to work on. Here's what we need you to work on. That's it. These kids are tougher than some think, right? Again, it's not the same. There's not these crazy 2-a-days where you don't get water. I mean, that did happen. And I'm sure it made us tougher. That's for daggone positive. And so that stuff doesn't happen. Okay. It's not the kid's fault. It just, it's just not the same as it used to be. So sometimes you got to get some things out of kids, right? Some of these guys were so talented that some of their coaches growing up, they didn't dare say anything wrong because they didn't want them to quit and go to another team. I coached. I kind of get it. I wasn't everybody's cup of taters in coaching. I can promise you that. But I coached the same all day, every day, all day. There it is. We're back at again. Because I'm going to cover O State all day, every day. Because I love this. And I love the possibility of enhancing any of the coverage our university gets. But that means we got to hold everybody accountable. We cannot grow if we're pretending things don't happen. It's a fact, Jack. So, until the next one, as always, I love you all. God bless. Go Pokes. And there's good news available. We just have to make it happen. That's all.